searching my brain trying to figure out what team would be a good fit for an aging Aaron Rodgers that's trying to make one more run at it. I don't see a great one.
Championship weekend is here, and nobody appreciates it more than Big Man Bets with 7-time Pro Bowler, Hall of Famer to beat, damn it, Nick Mangold, and the Hall of Famer, greatest show on turf, riding his Rams. Look at that smile, Orlando Pace. Congratulations, buddy. Guys,
yeah, oh no, it was a great win. I just so happened to be at that game this past weekend in Tampa, and I got to admit I was getting a little nervous there. Things just start happening, fumbles, turnovers, and you start thinking that the ghost of Tom Brady or the Tom Brady curse was going to arrive and beat the Rams. But Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, they pulled it out in the last 30 seconds. So a little nervous, but a fun atmosphere to be a part of it, and really excited that the Rams are going to the NFC Championship game.
A little nervous. Nick, you knew Tampa was winning that game. Everybody knew Tampa was winning that game after they were counted out.
The shades of the Falcons, what was that, 28-3? Like, that just, you saw it coming, and like you just can't stop that ball from, rolling down the hill. But then, Matthew Stafford, who has been, I know Orlando was riding him strong early on, and then he was kind of wishy-washy towards the middle. I assume he's now the next game he goes to, he's going to have the Stafford jersey on, full support, ready to go.
Worst call, the zero blitz letting Cooper Kupp run straight down the middle, or the Bills kicking off with 13 seconds to go and not squib kicking?
Whew, wow. I think it's the zero blitz. I think you have to know, in that situation, you really have to know where Cooper Kupp is. I mean, he's been killing you the entire game. And for you to put him on a safety, obviously, and some guys didn't blitz according to Arian. But I think that was the worst play. You can't go a zero blitz with that amount of time left on the clock and not identify Cooper Kupp as a threat on that play.
Yeah, that's a tough one, because I feel like if you would have told me, you're 13 seconds, be like, yeah, they're not going to be able to make those chunk plays to get there, so it doesn't really matter. I'd rather keep them as far away as possible and have them really work for it. Whereas, on the defensive side, you're looking at, where the ball is going. You know it's going to Cooper Kupp. Like, even if you do want to blitz, have two guys on. Just make sure you got him blanketed. And so I was shocked by that, but that has to be the bigger blunder than the deep kickoff, because, 13 seconds, that's no time. Like, I don't understand it.
That performance by both Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen was just, I don't know if we've ever seen anything like that. That was absolutely positively an insane last, call it 2 minutes of the game. Are these two going to be the next Brady/Manning rivalry? Do you think this is built to last, Mahomes and Allen? What do you think here, Nick?
Yeah, I think it is. It seems like the two teams are being set up to build around these quarterbacks, and that they've really come into their own. I think obviously it took Josh a little bit longer than Patrick, but in the end, as you're seeing this, what's going to be interesting is as the Chiefs continue to go on and they have to start replacing some of these playmakers. You lose Kelsey, you lose Tyreek Hill. What's Patrick going to be able to do? Same with Josh Allen and his playmakers. That was one of the big things we saw with Peyton and Brady, was that, they would lose guys would come and go, and they would still be playing at a high level. Will we see that from these two quarterbacks? And I think that's going to be the test. It doesn't become that rivalry if they're able to keep up with it. And the other side of that too is there's so many great young quarterbacks in the AFC. Is it just going to be a two-man race, or is there? Justin Herbert's going to be in that talk soon. There's a lot of guys that could be considered. And so I feel like we're coming almost into not a golden age, but a really exciting time for young quarterbacks coming into this AFC.
Yeah, I think you can go a couple ways if you're looking for that Brady-Manning matchup. Joe Burrow's what he's doing in Cincinnati is phenomenal. Justin Herbert, what he's doing, obviously if Cincinnati comes out and beats, KC this upcoming week, are you talking Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes at that point? So there's a lot, to Nick's point, there's a lot of great talent in terms of quarterback in the AFC alone. So I think it'll give a couple more years to develop. I think these right now, Buffalo and KC has really good team. Buffalo has a really good defense that helps Josh Allen out a little bit. But I just want to see it all. I just don't want to see these two guys dueling back and forth. I want to see what the other quarterbacks, young quarterbacks in that conference has to say, because I think it's going to be a fun, NFL to watch in terms of quarterbacks over the next 3 or 4 years.
Raise your hand if you would take Allen over Mahomes. I'm assuming I'm not going to get a hand raise here, or will I?
I want to. I'm not going to, but I want to.
I think the verdict's still out. I think the one thing that I learned about Josh Allen over this last week is normally he, in those crunch time situations, he would do something crazy. And I think he's starting to mature and he's not making those mistakes that he would normally make. So I would give him another year. His arm talent is ridiculous in terms of his strength. But I love to see him, obviously command the offense a little bit more the way Patrick Mahomes does.
I just love his size, Nick. I mean, that guy can dish out punishment, and he gets in trouble. All of a sudden, he's now getting away from trouble, and then he's turning it upfield, and he's running dudes over. That is a rare skill set right there, outside of the fact that he's throwing 40-yard dimes.
Yeah, I mean, it is. He's got that dual threat, but he's massive, which helps. And so that's why I'm teetering on the Josh Allen side. I was kind of like halvesies where I don't want the teacher to call on me, but I'm still, it'll be known that I tried to raise my hand. Because the thing I need to see, like we saw it at the beginning of this year when Casey's defense wasn't going well, Patrick Mahomes wasn't playing well. He was trying to do too much to cover. So I want to see, what happens if Buffalo's defense isn't playing well for multiple games where, all right, is Josh Allen going to try to do too much, or is he going to stay within his confines, continue to play the game, and it's just going to be shootouts? So I think that's an interesting side to it. But, when you're able to see Josh Allen do what he does, the thing that does concern me, even though he is bigger and can kind of take some of these hits, any quarterback that's, has that run option, that's just more injury risk. And I don't like that. I know Patrick Mahomes, he has that run option, but I feel he's more elusive. So, I think he understands that. And so it's tough. I mean, I think any team would be happy to take either one of them.
So, in Orlando, you kind of just touched on this. If Drew Brees, let's call him the third wheel in the Brady-Manning class, and that's a hell of a third wheel, by the way. I mean, first ballot Hall of Famer. Who do you think is third here if we're putting Mahomes and Allen at the top? Lamar, Burrow, Murray, Herbert. I mean, the list is long here. We can venture outside the AFC too.
You know what? For me, I don't even know if I'm putting Josh Allen number 2. I like Joe Burrow personally, just what he's been able to accomplish with the talent that he's been able to do it with. And he's, that game against Tennessee, he's cool in the pocket. He gets sacked 9 times. He's a tough kid, and he's just resilient as all out. So I like what he's shown me over the past couple of years, and the growth and his maturity. In the next couple of years is going to be spectacular. As soon as you put some linemen that actually can block for him, give him more time in the pocket, I think he's going to be, obviously right up there with those other 2 guys.
Yeah, the Drew Brees, it's tough because, I mean, you have so many that have such great potential. The one, I have probably 2 that stick out to me. Lamar Jackson being one of them. I think he's going to be a fantastic quarterback. He's going to continue to do very well. I see him winning a Super Bowl. Will he be that, dominant force that has the rivalry? I don't know. And I would put the same, going outside the AFC, I'd put the same Kyler Murray. I think he's fantastic. I think he's going to put up numbers. I think he will win a Super Bowl. But I don't think he's going to be the wow, look at this guy that, Patrick Mahomes was, Tom Brady's, the Peyton Manning's what I think Josh Allen's going to be. So I think of the two in the AFC and NFC, I would put those two guys as my Drew Brees.
I want to come back to the quarterback in a second here, which is the conversation. It's getting more and more interesting by the moment. But let's just tackle overtime because that game was incredible. I was all for Josh Allen deserves another chance here, but let's just go macro. Forget that one game. The NFL's got an overtime problem. I think we would all agree here. Orlando, how do you solve what the NFL is doing with OT right now?
You know what? I'm not as disappointed because obviously, and as a defense, it's your job to stop them, right? I think it depends on what side of the coin that you if you're a Buffalo fan, you're thinking, hey man, we want our quarterback to have a chance. But everybody's professional on that field. Defense, has to go down and stop them, or at least get 3 or something. So, and they weren't able to do that. That's part of how it kind of shakes out. So I'm not mad at it as much. I think the only difficult part is decided by a coin toss, which makes it difficult. But obviously Buffalo had a chance to go down there and stop KC, and they didn't.
Yeah, this is where I get torn because I see both sides. I understand Orlando's point on the rules. It is what it is. That's how it is. And the defense does need to go out there and make a stop. I mean, that argument could be made all the time, where, if they had made a stop and then Buffalo scores a touchdown and, game's over, like, well, at least everyone had a chance. But their defense did that. They made it happen. So I think it emphasizes the team nature of football. But now looking at it as a fan, and what I'd like to see, because, just as we get into playoffs and we talk about those things, I think the NFL should just go to a straight 15-minute overtime quarter, play it out and see, do we get to an eventual winner? And if it doesn't, regular season, we have ties as it is, we ended a tie. When we get to the playoffs, people always talk about going to the college system of the shootout. But I think NFL kickers are so good, you can't start at the 25 to 30. I'd put a team, you start at the 50, and that's where you start, and you go from there. You're 40-ish range, so that way it's a long kick if you get the opportunity. I think that would be a fun way that kind of negates the idea like, oh well, they didn't get a chance. Like Josh Allen didn't get to go back out there, and then, especially for overbettors, if you get into that shootout, I think it would be a lot of fun.
Which one did you like more, though, Orlando? The Nick Mangold start at the 50-yard, you both get it, or let's play the full 15?
You know what? Playing the full 15 is tough. To get guys to sign up for that would be tough because then it could also result in a tie, and then you have to play another full 15 or. So I kind of like the college rule, just move it back a little bit, 40-yard, 50-yarder, and then, each team gets a chance to score or kick a field goal. So I do kind of like that college atmosphere, and then teams have to go for 2. All that is great, just to decide the winner in the playoffs. But I'm sure they'll be talking about this, obviously in the next off-season meetings with the rules and regulations committee or whatever it might be, just to see if there's better ways to do the overtime thing. But every year there's always a team that's disappointed in how the overtime rules are.
I mean, I think we just got a sale here. Or you're in on Mangold's 50-yard line, and you're ready to punt on the BS that is overtime right now. And we're all sitting there. I mean, the Bills might have been should onside kicked. You're not stopping them. It's over.
As a fan of the game, man, I love that. I love watching that game, and I wouldn't have been mad about another 15 minutes of watching that game and just watching these two quarterbacks and these offenses duel it out to the end. So it was really a fun game to watch as a fan.
I'd also like to throw in there that to win it on the first possession, I think you should have to go for 2. Nick, you with me on that one? That's a little bit better than what we have right now, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, but there's so many coaches already going for 2, in the way that they go on a 4th down and everything, that might become a little bit more obsolete. But I mean, it's tough because, you want to say the defense has a job to do. They should have done their job and stopped him. So I don't know. Like it's a tough road to navigate.
All right. Okay. So let's look at this Super Bowl, guys. Down to 4. Burrow, Stafford, Mahomes, and Jimmy. I have no idea how I'm still alive, Garoppolo, but here he is. For legacy, let's look ahead. Whose legacy will be most impacted by winning the Super Bowl this year of those 4 fine gentlemen?
For me, it's easy. I think it's Matthew Stafford. I think a guy who hadn't done much in Detroit for a number of years, couldn't win the big game, has never gone this deep in the playoffs, and even had a chance for a Super Bowl. You get rid of Jared Goff for 3 first-round picks. The pressure's on in LA to make a big difference. So I think he's the guy with the most pressure in terms of his legacy of getting over the hump and actually becoming a winner, and not just be known for losing all those years in Detroit.
That's a good choice. I like that reasoning. Now I kind of want to switch my choice, but I'm going to stick with mine. I think Patrick Mahomes on this one. I think he gets that second Super Bowl. I mean, that legacy is defined. Like, then anything after this is just, just extra frosting on top of the cake. Like, it's you get 2 Super Bowls. You're now in the upper echelon of quarterbacks, and you can continue on. So I think if he's able to knock that out so early in his career, get those 2 Super Bowls so early in the career, would be huge for his legacy.
When you're looking at Jimmy Garoppolo, who should have been picked off about 7 times last week, would he be, in your mind, the worst quarterback to win a Super Bowl if the 49ers can get this done? That might be a little bit unfair, but maybe it's spot on. Who wants this one? Nick, go ahead.
Yes, I would say yes and no. Now I'm going to say no, because I mean, you always have the Trent Dilfer of 2000
Right.
Baltimore's. Like, that's your gold standard of, your defense has absolutely just won you a championship. The other one I look at, which I find interesting, is the Peyton's last year, Manning's. He got injured. He was out for 6 or 7 games, I think, something like that. And for he wins the Super Bowl. He gets credit for winning the Super Bowl, and he did what he needed to do in the playoffs. But statistically, that season was not great. And so when you're talking just straight stats, and like I can't say that he's the worst. When you're looking overall picture, like, we know Peyton was a fantastic, unbelievable Hall of Fame quarterback. He just had a bad year, and defense helped him get there. So I can't say that Jimmy G is the worst quarterback, but the optics of it just don't look great.
You know what, Nick? It's funny. My first thought was Trent Dilfer. And do you think that Jimmy G is better than Trent Dilfer in terms of that? And I think he does. I think he's better in a sense because I think Shanahan does a much better job of calling plays that doesn't put Jimmy G in trouble. I think he does a phenomenal job with that, putting the 49ers in offensive sets where it doesn't force Jimmy G to actually go out and win the game for you. Just manage it, get the ball to Debo Sanders, and play physical football. So I don't think he's the worst guy. I still think there's a couple of guys out there, and those guys you mentioned, although Payton's an all-time great, he didn't do much when Denver won that Super Bowl. But Trent Dilfer is the number one guy, I think, in terms of probably the worst quarterback to win a Super Bowl, in this era.
The Peyton Manning call is phenomenal. That season, he threw 9 touchdown passes, had 17 interceptions.
Wow.
He started in 9 games, played in 10. Of course, the Broncos were 7-2 when he was out there. His completion percentage was an incredibly unmanning, like 59.8. I mean, he sucked. He was terrible, but he did enough to win. I'm not trying. You can't take. I'm not taking anything from Peyton, but I think I love that call. It's a good one.
Yeah, great call.
And listen, again, nothing against Peyton. I love Peyton. I think he's one of the best people in the NFL. But when you look statistically at seasons, and I know he had that 6 games where he was out, but I mean, Jimmy G has had his issues with injuries and everything, especially with the looming. I think they've already decided that he's going to be gone after this year, which is crazy that he's playing, still going strong, and they're getting where he is. So it's crazy to think like all of this is going on, and they're still one game away from the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Hey, let's look at the non-quarterbacks, and we're looking for the best offensive weapon in the playoffs that is not playing the QB position. And we're seeing some huge plays. So this is a tough call. Deebo Samuel was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, Cooper Kupp was, be honest, Jamar Chase with an enormous catch for the Bengals. Tyreek Hill, his play to the end zone. Travis Kelce. We're even sneaking Odell in here because Odell's making plays. And the one play on the boundary was a sweet play too. But Orlando, your number one offensive performer that's not playing QB.
Wow, I know this is going to sound like a homer, but Cooper Kupp. Go figure. Hey, as you know, I'm all over the Rams right now, man, just so you know. Because Cooper Kupp, obviously, to have the game that he had, and you see so many number one receivers in the league that are double teamed and people know you're going to get the ball. And for him to still come out and have those numbers is pretty much phenomenal. When guys are arguing about getting the ball because they're double covered, this guy just finds a way to get open and make plays, some pretty big impact plays for the team. So, to have over the yardage he had against Tampa Bay in a playoff game is unreal for a receiver where everybody knows that defense knows you're going to still get the ball.
Yeah, I was going to go Kupp just because of what he's done, but I couldn't stroke Orlando's ego anymore and having to agree with him with the Rams. So I'm going with Kelce. You just get the ball near him, he's going to make that catch. And he's able to, his yards after the catch, he's able to do stuff blocking. I think all around weapon, he makes things happen for the Chiefs. And I think that's huge. And so for me, I think, he's kind of Patrick Mahomes' security blanket. Like he always knows that, well, if all those fails, I can find Kelce. And so I think that's a huge bonus when you're talking about offensive weapons in these playoffs.
But I'll tell you one thing, Deebo Samuels, what he's doing for the 49ers, unbelievable. They line the guy up in the backfield, receiver, give him the ball. Everybody knows he's getting the ball, and nobody wants to see this guy in the third and fourth quarter because he's really carrying the ball like a running back from the wide receiver position, and they know how to use him in the right way.
I mean, biggest play of the game in the backfield, go pick up 10 yards so we can kick a field goal and win it. I mean, Devontae's great, but I thought that Deebo was the MVP outside of special teams and everything else that happened in that Packer loss, which, by the way, we haven't talked about Aaron Rodgers yet. We'll get to him in a second. But let's stick with teams still alive, and let's look at the coaches. Must-win scenario. You got to have it. We got Andy Reid. We got Zach Taylor. We got Kyle Shanahan. We got Sean McVay. From a coaching standpoint, who's your number one draft pick? Nick, I see you nodding your head here. Why don't you jump in?
It's tough. I don't know. Andy Reid, the recency bias of how well they've done and everything is fantastic. So I feel like that would be your obvious choice. But you go back to like those Philly teams when they really needed that win and they didn't get it done. That kind of weighs on you. But the one that I'm leaning towards is going to go Sean McVay. I think, he's had winners. He keeps winning. He's very innovative. I think his teams play for him. And so I think if it's a must-win scenario, I got to have it. I think I'm sticking with Sean McVay.
Yep, great call there. For me, I'm going Andy Reid and what he's been able to do. I know Nick thought I was going McVay too. I'm going Andy Reid just for his experience, man. I think he's been so close so many times. Won a Super Bowl a couple years ago with KC. But what he's doing offensively, just their play calling. I don't know if you guys noticed in the red zone what kind of plays are. There's like this video game plays that they're calling down there, and they're executing. Seems like they're having a ton of fun. When you have a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes and a coach like Andy Reid, obviously, I'm gonna stick with Andy Reid on this one.
Personality-wise, who would you rather play for between those two? You got sort of laid back, chill, jolly, fun Andy Reid, and or up at 4 a.m. on the Nordic track on the elliptical, eating reduced fat, whatever, Sean McVay? Who's your guy?
I'm a lineman, man. So I'm gonna go with Andy Reid, man. Obviously he understands the plight of the big man, so he talks about burgers and all kinds of foods in his presser afterwards, and I think he just has an ultimate love for big guys, and I would probably choose Andy Reid in that situation too.
Yeah, that's an easy one. It's Andy Reid. I mean, that's a given. Like, his time in Philly, like there wasn't a cheesesteak left unturned, and so I can support that. And so Andy he's got to be the guy.
Let's put someone on blast here. Of the four that we named, it's obviously not going to be Reid and or McVay, but we're down to Zach Taylor and Kyle Shanahan. Who are you most in peril with right now this weekend? Orlando, why don't you go first here? Feel free.
You know what? Kyle Shanahan, what he's done with that offense, man, has been phenomenal. His play calling. But obviously Zach Taylor, right, with Cincinnati, he's in a situation where if you ask him honestly at the beginning of the year, if there was any shot that he'll be in the AFC Championship game with his current squad, he'll be like, nah, no way. And I don't know how many people gave him a shot last week against a Tennessee Titan team, but he's a guy that he may be a little bit over his head. I know he has a talented team, but going to Kansas City, trying to face that Chiefs team this weekend will be a tough, tall task for him. But obviously what he's done this year has been phenomenal. So hats off to him.
Yeah, I think I got to agree with Orlando on this one, and I will put my hand up and admit that I'm very ignorant on his coaching journey and where he's been and everything. But I feel like the experience of being in this situation is something that I feel like is a whole kind of new element to NFL coaching, and so I don't know if he has that there. And he's got such a young team to build up. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. I will say some of us did call the Bengals winning, but it's good. Like Orlando said, going to KC this weekend is going to be tough.
For the record, our guy Taylor, most of it was with Miami. He was an OC there, but last year he was a quarterbacks coach with the Rams. So, and or in
Sean McVay tree, yeah.
Right, 2018, making his way. When I look at the body language, when I see Zach Taylor, he doesn't just completely ooze confidence to me. But maybe that's totally unfair. Yeah, congratulations on being in the Final Four. That's an incredible accomplishment. All right. I want to know from your guys' standpoint, when you get this deep in the playoffs, what's going on in the locker room as far as wrinkles being put in? Like how everybody has seen everything to this point. How do you scheme up a championship weekend, staying with your strengths, but also perhaps giving yourself that one wrinkle that could be key at some point in the game to get you all the way to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think for me, it's the toughest game to watch, obviously, because it's a divisional opponent, is the Rams and 49ers. They know each other so well. So when you walk into a game like that where you played them twice and every year you play them twice a year, everybody knows everybody's personnel, right? You try to add a little wrinkle, maybe something that you haven't put in against them or something that, you've seen another team have success against. But at the end of the day, you still know each other. You're familiar with each other. So you know their players, what they're capable of, what they're going to do. So you just try to really pay close attention to detail and try to go out and the 49ers are a really physical team, not to harp on that game, but just knowing your opponent as much as you can. And then obviously still staying within yourself as a coaching staff and still do what you do best, right? Just execute with greater attention to detail. And maybe a couple trick plays or something like that you may want to throw in, red zone type things that opposing team hadn't seen yet. So, but I think the most important part is stay true to yourself, being able to run the ball, throwing the ball when you have to, and playing good defense.
Yeah, if I were doing it and you obviously have what you do. Like you've gotten to this point by doing what you do best. And so you need to stick with that. But I think especially, talking about the 49ers and Rams, knowing each other so well, if you know what you do best, you should be able to come up with something that can complement that kind of resembles what you do best, but then gives them a completely different look, and or do what you do best out of a completely different look. Just kind of throw them off guard a little bit. And so I think that's kind of where that chess match comes into play. Probably more so than the Bengals and the Chiefs, because while they did play in the regular season, it's not the same thing as being in that same conference or division. So you have a couple of wrinkles. You probably put something in training camp, and you sprinkle it in like every 3 weeks. You just, hey, let's run this again for a trick play type thing. But I think it's really mainly sticking with what you do best, what got you here, and just go out and do it and execute it perfectly.
Hey, Nick, who do you think has the advantage when you look at both of these teams? They both played each other late in the season. Obviously Cincinnati beat KC, 49ers. Who do you think comes into this game with the greater advantage? Is it the team that lost because they feel like, or is it the team that won where they feel like, hey, man, we just beat these guys a couple of weeks ago? Have you ever been, who do you think has the greater advantage in the game in terms of mindset when it comes to that?
Mindset is tricky because I had a similar situation in 2009. We played the Cincinnati Bengals as the last game of the regular season, and it was a win and get in, and we smoked them 35-0, I think. Something, it was just a shellacking. And then we had to go on the road wild card weekend and play the Cincinnati again. And so it was back-to-back weeks we were playing them. And I remember thinking, like, well, as you're going into this, are they going to be more fired up because they lost? Are we going to be complacent because we did beat them by so much? Like, where's that mindset? And I think the big thing that we were telling, as a team was, that we can't rest on what we did. Like, playoffs are something new. We had, great success against them, but let's not pretend like they were playing their hearts out, because they knew they were already going to the playoffs. And so it's still going to be fighting. So I think we ended up beating Cincinnati in the playoff game. It was like 17-14. So it was a much tighter game and everything. But when you're that close, like we literally just played him the week before. It was like, all right, I know Pico, and I know what he tried to do to me, and is he going to try to do the same thing? Is he going to try to switch it up? Like, it was kind of surreal having it so close, and having the outcome means so much when you just played them.
Yeah, yep, I agree. The stakes are different, and sometimes you can psych yourself either out or what, depending on, because based on how the game went before. So I always thought that was interesting to talk about, because I think we've all been in that situation. And when the stakes are higher, it changes. The same team you played a week ago can be really completely different. So I always wanted to get another player's take on that.
Very cool. Love it. Let's wrap up here before we make our picks. And by the way, you're both red hot. This has been a very impressive performance. We'll get to that in a second, but we do have to talk a little Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. What's going to happen going forward? No one saw the Packers going out like this, not just losing, but Aaron had a bad game. Do we think that Aaron comes back? Do we think he comes back to Green Bay? He was on his Pat McAfee show saying that he'll make a decision by the franchise tag deadline, which is February the 22nd. Let's see here. Who wants this? Feel free, jump on in. What do you think Aaron's going to do? Nick, you're laughing. Go ahead.
I think that's the joy of it, is that no one knows what Aaron's going to do. Aaron's going to do what Aaron wants to do. I think he is looking at the Green Bay situation, maybe not so much the front office, but more the team. Like, they were talking about, I think they're $44 million over in cap. And I know, things can be adjusted, and they can work magic with numbers and make things just disappear. So I don't see that as a huge deal, but I think Aaron realizes, especially with this past loss, like, his time is coming to an end. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, it's going to be. So if he decides to stay with Green Bay, are they doing a rebuild? Because I think he already came out and said, like, I'm not going to be here for a rebuild. Like, that's out. So if they try to clean the slate and, wash themselves a bunch of contracts and start over, Aaron's not going to want to be a part of it. If they're able to do cat magic and keep the team together, he might stick around. I think he really does enjoy the Packers fan base. I think he enjoys that locker room. So I would figure he would stick around if it made possible. But looking at what's outside, we always talk about the grass is always greener on the other side. Searching my brain, trying to figure out what team would be a good fit for an aging Aaron Rodgers that's trying to make one more run at it. I don't see a great one. A team that would do it. Like I feel like Pittsburgh is the one that's always gets talked about, but I don't see Pittsburgh doing it because I don't think they're the organization that's going to go out and rent a quarterback for 1 or 2 years just to try to get a Super Bowl since they already have 6 as an organization. Other than that, I just don't see. I mean, maybe Denver. Like there's not a lot of places where I can say, all right, we plug a QB in here and we're going to win a Super Bowl. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how he comes to his, where he's thinking. Because if he stays with Green Bay, they're not going to go rebuild. But how are they going to get the cap right? If he leaves Green Bay, what's the options?
Yeah, initially I thought based on his interview and everything that he was talking about that he would stay. Then I got to thinking a little bit about, obviously where he's from. He's from the Bay Area. And I started thinking about the 49ers and what they want to move on from Jimmy G. Obviously, they have Trey Lance in the wings, but for a stopgap couple years with that defense and what they've been able to accomplish out there with Deebo Samuels and that team, that almost sounds like a perfect fit. I think when you look at it and you say, hey, they have a great offensive line that plays really well, and he's from that area, I think the 49ers could make sense possibly. But other than that, I don't see any other place where he can go where they have a defense, a good offensive line, and probably good weather at this point. He probably wants to go somewhere where there's some decent weather and not be in Green Bay. But I think it's over. I think he may have thought that Green Bay had a great team this year. When anytime you get bounced out in the first round after having to bye, there's something there that's missing in terms of team. And I think as a player, sometimes you just want to go and have a different scenery. So I think he's probably looking at it that way. So I think he's ultimately going to leave Green Bay. It may be 49ers, maybe Pittsburgh. Who knows?
From the retirement seat that you two are sitting in, would you tell him to keep going, Orlando? Hey, squeeze that lemon, get every last bit of juice out of it.
You know what? He's made so much. He's made so much money over the past probably 16, 17 years. I don't think money's a factor. We talked about it on the show a few times. In order to be in that upper echelon of quarterbacks, you got to have multiple Super Bowl rings. So he has to go somewhere where he wants to chase a Super Bowl ring so he can at least get 2, possibly 3 before he retires.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest question is, do you still have fun doing it? If it's a struggle for him waking up in the morning, having to go in and deal with, the ins and outs of a Thursday in the NFL week, then I would say, yeah, just call it quits, man. Like you've done what you can. You don't have the Super Bowl legacy, but you have all the passing and everything, and everyone always agrees that you're a great quarterback. But if he still has fun with it, I'd say keep playing till you don't have fun anymore. And I think that's kind of the luxury that he has, being the amazing talent that he has. He can keep playing, and someone's going to give him an opportunity. Whether or not that's the best opportunity for him to win a Super Bowl, I don't know. But someone's going to give him an opportunity because it's Aaron Rodgers.
Orlando, you think Tom is done?
I do, man. Just based on everything that Tom has said in his last presser, we've watched him over the past 20 years, and he's never made such statements in the presser at the end of the year. And I know it was a disappointing loss for him, but when he started talking about wife and kids and spending more time with your kids, obviously I think, he probably, this may be his last year.
I think Orlando might be getting sucked in here.
When you start talking family and everything, like it does. I think it's funny. I saw an article this morning that was, Tampa Bay fans are pressuring his wife to let him play for another year and everything. It does get tough, and I think especially as his kids get older, like you want to be around for the different things that are going on. I know I assume you don't want to go out. Like if he goes out after this year, it'd be like, God, I wish I would have just gone out the year before and, ended with that Super Bowl and walked off in the sunset. So I'm sure that's hanging over him. So I think the competitor side is going to be like, well, I'd rather walk off with a Super Bowl than walk off with a loss. So, but in the end, I mean, the family, if family time's, starting to creep in and say, hey, I want to spend more time with family, I think he's out.
Needless to say, I don't think that team's going to look the same either. I think last year after coming off a Super Bowl, people were talking, hey, I'll take a pay cut. Let's run it back, right? So players are deciding to take pay cuts, staying for lesser money. This year, it probably won't be the same. Obviously, there's cap implications or whatever it might be. But that team, even down the stretch, didn't have as much talent because of, injury or whatever it might be. Guys are looking to get paid from that championship team this year. So I don't think he'll have the same team coming back to running back. And I don't know if he would want to do that at 45.
He led the NFL in touchdown passes with 43. He completed 67.5% of his passes. I'm just like, why is this even a question? You're playing one more year. You wanted to play to 45. You're there. I mean, to me, the question should be, is he going to go to 50? But I guess families, that's a whole nother animal that I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. None of us do. So, but performance wise, do we all agree that he can still do it at least well enough?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Let's make some money here. For all your gambling needs, wynnbet.com, wynnbet.com. Orlando, you are the playoff savant. 3-0 last week. Nick, you were 2-1. Orlando is now in his last 3 weeks 7-2. I mean, let's go. Nick, you're right there too. 5-3-1. Season-wise, Nick, you've got it. 33-24-1. But Orlando now 4 over at 31-27. And with last week, that means you get to go first. Hey, we got 2 games to play with here, so let's pick them up here. Who are we taking as we let's start first? I guess we'll do we'll do it in order of games. So Bengals and Chiefs, Kansas City, a 7-point favorite at home. Orlando.
Ooh, tough call here. You know what? But I'm leaning towards the Kansas City Chiefs. I think playing at home, having that extra motivation of not playing well a few weeks ago in Cincinnati, they're rolling offensively, defensively. I think they have enough. And I don't think Cincinnati has the experience in this situation, so I think they'll fall short. I got KC by 10. I know the spread is 7, but I think they'll win by double digits.
Public is betting heavily on Kansas City. Orlando's with the public. Nick?
I've been riding them for the playoffs, so I got to keep going. I wish it was plus 7.5, but I'm only getting the straight touchdown, so I'm still going to stick with it. The Bengals plus 7. I think they keep it close. I am concerned about offensive line. Joe Burrow can't be taking those sacks. I know Callahan, the offensive coordinator for the Bengals, mentioned that specifically. So I think that's going to be a big emphasis for him, and I hope the offensive line steps up because, I think Cincinnati has the weapons to keep up with the Chiefs. They just got to protect Joe Burrow as best they can.
I like it. Could have a little bit of a letdown after the Chiefs survive at Buffalo, maybe sleeping on the Bengals. You never know. All right, 49ers and Rams. Orlando, you get to sit in the background here. I think we have an idea which way we're going to go. Maybe you'll go against the heart. 3.5 points here. Nick, you rolling with the Niners as a upset candidate?
So I'm rolling with the Niners plus 3.5. I think it also will be a close game. And I don't know, it all depends on Matthew Stafford, and he's been doing well so far. I feel like we're going to get the other shoe to drop this week, or at least I have my fingers crossed. So I'm taking the 49ers plus 3.5.
Yeah. For me, obviously, I'm going with the Rams for a couple of reasons. It's difficult to beat a team that 3 times in a row in the season. Just tough for him. I think Stafford, what he did last week against Tom Brady, probably gave him the confidence and propelled him a little bit to play with confidence this week. So I got the Rams plus 3.5 over the 49ers.
All right, let's play the numbers to wrap it up here. 54 Chiefs Bengals. Orlando over under.
I'm going over on that game. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think Cincinnati puts up some numbers as well. KC probably averages over 30 points at home, so I think over 54 easily.
I'm right there with him. I'm taking the over on that. I think it's going to be a shootout, or at least that's what I'm hoping for. And so you got to go over.
It sounds like, Nick, you're going to take the under on 46.5 with the Niners.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a close game. I think their defenses are going to play great, and I think they're going to shut them down. And so I think it's going to be tight. And so in that spirit, and I hate taking the unders. I got to go with it, taking the under.
All right. And for me, for the sake of just debate, I'll go over on that game. I think it'll be a little higher scoring than the 46 points. I think both offenses get rolling early and play tight defense the second half. So
the most important offensive weapon, Cooper Kupp, running all over the place.
That's it, man. My man Cooper Kupp.
In front of all the 49er fans.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, it'll probably be 50-50 for an NFC Championship game, believe it or not.
I know that St. Louis is all mad still, but I'm thinking, you know what? You guys want a home field advantage. Just move. Let's play the game back in your old home. Let's go. Absolutely. Gentlemen, we made it to championship weekend. We're off next week, team, for the diehards out there, and we'll be back, of course, Super Bowl week. So have a phenomenal championship weekend. Good luck to one and all, and for all of us just enjoying the entertainment of the games. Thank you so much for last weekend. That was incredible. Let's go for a repeat here. Good to see you guys.
Thank you.
Yep.